Tinubu's factory through the support of the Bank of Industry. This has helped to provide jobs for local farmers, peelers, among others. And in this community alone, about 200 jobs have been created.
We have mostly women peelers who are locals of the village. And they're here every day. We have grandmothers, we have mothers, we have spinsters. And on a regular day, because this is very, very early in the morning, they're only just streaming in. But by the end of the day, on a regular day, we could have up to 50 women here peeling. This is the Eco Cassava Factory wet processing section in this particular village. We have mobile processors that we take to big farms. This is an exceptionally big farm, and we have been here for some time, for quite a while. This is the first batch of cassava that has come in today, and we would normally have at least 5 of this. Each load is approximately 3 tons. And it gets done within a few hours. When the cassava gets offloaded, it is weighed in 100 kg batches for the peelers. As you can see, the peelers are just streaming in, and they would multiply by the end of the day. In most days, we have up to 50 women peeling here. The women are grandmothers, mothers, spinsters, newly married, and they come with their babies. Now the process starts from peeling, and cassava root has 2 layers of skin. The first skin is the outer layer, which is a brown skin, and then we have an inner layer, which is a thicker white skin. And this is particularly good for hand peeling because the hand peelers make sure that the inner layer comes off to reduce the cyanide content in the root. And it usually peels off quite easily, just as if you're peeling a banana. So after the peeling, it goes in to be washed. This is the wet section where washing starts. The washing is done manually because we try to encourage local labor and use the community, like the women are peeling. Also, we employ labor locally so that we can keep the youths with us and reduce the mass migration of young people from the rural areas to urban areas. So she washes, and then it goes from here to be grated into pulp. This is a grating section. After washing, the roots go into the grater. This is called a grater. All the machines are fabricated locally. It's a mobile grater. It uses a diesel engine, and because we're in the rural area, we don't get any power supply at all. And it's easier to move from one venue to another, to move from farm to farm. So the roots get poured in here. It gets grated into mash, and the mash gets put into sacks, and the sacks are roughly being measured so that they're not filled too much, so that it'll be easier for the water to come out. So when it gets to the pulp stage, if we were to make gari from the mash, they would go into sacks and they would go into a fermentation tank for a period of 3 days minimum to ferment. After the fermentation, it goes into the presser to be dewatered, and then it's roasted as gari. But because we're not doing gari, as we have a limited time to process the roots into flour, our processing must continue by putting them directly into sacks, and from the sacks to go straight into the presser. And the presser is also locally fabricated, and it's also manual operated. So we don't need power or electricity to operate any of the machines that we take around to the farms. For a quick recap, the roots come in, they get peeled, they get washed, then they get grated into mash, and the mash is dewatered in the presser, and the dewatered mash is called cake, and the cake goes into the pulverizer machine. It's pulverized into flakes, and the flakes now go into the dry section.
In the factory, the cake is processed and converted to cassava flour.
This is the drying and milling section. So the pulverized flakes comes in here, and it goes into the flash dryer, because when it's pulverized, it still has a bit of water in it, and that's the water that we need to dry completely. And we want a moisture content of between 7% minimum to 11% maximum for HQCF. So in order to get that, we have to dry at a certain temperature, and flash dry is very effective to that, and it's very clean as well, as opposed to sun drying. And this is what we have, two lines. This is one of the flash dryers that we use. You can see it's in operation now. So we now have dry flour, dry HQCF, with the moisture content should not be above 11%, like I said earlier. Now the dry flour, it is okay as it is, but we have to mill it as well, because that's one of the requirements. This is the final process, actually, when it comes out milled into fine powder. That is now taken into the packing section. This is the packaging section, where the HQCF is bagged into 50 kg sacks. They're weighed. The sacks are locked, and it goes into the loading bay, where they're loaded up and shipped out to the end user.
It is estimated that about 16 billion naira worth of high-quality cassava flour will be needed this year, leading to more job creation as the Bank of Industry helps fund cassava processors across the country. Ms. Tinubu is excited about the prospect of the business and looks forward to making more economically viable products from cassava with the support of the Bank of Industry.
Now I would like to go into starch processing, because you have a lot of companies, food producing companies, pharmaceuticals, textiles using starch, industrial starch, food grade starch, and we import a lot of it. Corn starch and maize starch, corn starch, same thing. Why can't we not also be using cassava to produce cassava starch for these companies? So that's my next phase. in agriculture. I'm hoping that the Bank of Industry would also see the vision in starch making and the impact it's going to have on the industry, how it's going to also create employment, and how it's also going to put us in the forefront to other African countries to be the leader in producing high food grade starch for local consumption and possibly exporting.
The agricultural sector due to limited processing and preservation capacity. This results in high food prices and food importation with its attendant effects on the nation's foreign reserves. To enable Nigerians optimize the benefits from the country's vast agricultural products such as cassava, oil palm, rice, tomatoes and others, the Bank of Industry has launched a 5 billion naira cottage agro-processing fund, the CAP Fund. Customers can access the fund to establish plans to process our various agro-produce into food products or intermediate raw materials for industries at a single-digit interest rate of 9% per annum. For more information on the CAP Fund, please visit www.boinigeria.com/capfund. Bank of Industry, developing Nigeria's agro-processing industry through the CAP Fund.
That's our program today. Thank you so much for watching. Log on to boinigeria.com or visit any of the BOI offices closest to you for possible funding options. I am Adeshewa Josh, and I'll see you again.